Good morning. Hello and welcome. My name is Jess Jones. I am the Center Director here with the Coffer Resource Center in Chicago, Illinois. We are the resource center that exists to support union professionals in the pursuit of work. And we are so happy to have you here with us today as part of our weekly installments of SoundCheck hosted by Dr. Greta Pope. Before we get started, I want to be sure to say that this is the holiday season. If you are in a position to give and these programs mean something to you, feel free to consider us as part of your gifting this season. We exist because of grants and donations, and so we appreciate your support. We also want to make sure that you are part of our community. So if you are not already subscribed to our communications, you can do that on our website, coffercenterchicago.com. You head straight down to the bottom center and there's a button for the headliner. That way you can stay tuned to conversations like this, as well as other webinars that we plan to program in the new year. So please join our community and be a part of what we are doing, because we love to be together in this space or in person someday in the future. And I am so grateful to Greta for these conversations in this series, because as I was thinking about it, one of the things that I do miss about being together is the experience of being a fly on the wall at the Coffer Center and having professionals to get together over a cup of coffee, just to talk shop, talk about the work, talk about what they've been up to. And that has been something that I've been blessed to just be in proximity to on a regular basis through the Coffer Center, and is one of the things that I miss sitting in my dining room, is being able to just grab a cup of coffee and check in with friends and members and performers and just hear what they've been up to. So if you don't already have your cup of coffee, now's your chance to grab your cup, get comfortable, get cozy, get ready for the conversation, because this is essentially the virtual experience of being together these days. And that's why I am so grateful to Greta for bringing this conversation to the Coffer Center, because it is virtually like being together. And so that is important more than ever. Without further ado, I do want to invite Dr. Greta Pope to the conversation. She has been wonderful in hosting these series and bringing this to the community. And I am so grateful, like I said, to her for joining us and hosting these conversations. She will be bringing our friends Mike and Kathleen to the conversation. Greta, it's so good to see you.
Thank you, Jess. It's great to be here as always. Thank you so much for everything you do at the Coffer Center to make our lives more pleasant during this unprecedented time.
Well, and thank you for bringing these conversations here too, because, like I'm saying, we are grateful for technology and grateful for these new ways to use it, because this is, the virtual experience of being together and bringing the conversation of work to the computer is, the closest facsimile we have to Coffer Center conversations right now. So I thank you. I appreciate you. And without further ado, I leave it to you.
Okay, sounds good. So hello, good morning, and welcome to SoundCheck. I'm Dr. Greta Pope, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to visit with creatives from a variety of disciplines about their professional journey. We are in the midst of a pandemic, as you know, and it has changed all of our lives and the ways in which we work. We will use this forum to share our thoughts, feelings, and best practices for surviving this challenging time. Today, I'm very excited. Our guests are Kathleen Lawler and Michael Joseph Thomas Ward, better known as Mike Ward to all of us. Kathleen Lawler has played many roles in independent films, on TV, and in theater. She has played the character of Genevieve on the web series Easy Abby. She has also appeared in Chicago Med and The Mob Doctor. Kathleen has done many commercials and industrials. She's a singer, a writer, a producer, and a visual artist. Kathleen, welcome. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Greta, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to see you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you. There's nothing better than having a familiar face that you love pop up on the screen. Isn't that something? True. I mean, I think it's wonderful. It's kind of all we have at this point. So we enjoy it.
We do. We relish it.
For more than 30 years, Mike Ward has worked on camera as a voiceover artist, a broadcaster, an onstage actor. He's a singer, an improviser, a sketch comedy writer and performer, and a stand-up comic. He has played supporting roles in films featuring Cate Blanchett, Jessica Biel, and many others. And Mike has a starring role as Arthur in the web series Dark Age. Mike, how are you today? Thank you for joining us.
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much, Greta, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. I'm so glad you're here. This is so fun. So I just want to say welcome to both of you. It's great to see you guys.
Thank you.
So we're going to get started. Kathleen, you're living in Atlanta now. How nice is that? No harsh winters for you. How long have you been in Atlanta, and how has your business changed since moving to Atlanta?
Well, I was in Atlanta for 2 weeks, and then I had a little situation where I needed to come back. So I'm actually back here now and then prepared to go again. So I have just secured a renter to take over my apartment, and that was the challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to tell you a little story about how wonderful that is. This woman came to my little apartment. It's on the lake. It's, you know, I hear the waves right now as we're speaking.
Nice.
And she seemed upset, and she said, well, I'm going to tell you the situation. My husband, I'm separated with, just found out he's terminally ill. And, you know, I was just, you know, shocked by this, but I also had an experience where my brother passed away on Christmas. Oh. And I got shivers. Like, I knew this woman was the right person for this apartment.
Yeah.
So she's looking for a place where he can convalesce while he's getting chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And I just knew this was very divine, and I'm just really excited about that.
Oh, I'm glad that has worked out. Yeah. Wow, that is quite bizarre. Quite bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were in Atlanta for the couple of weeks, had you started working or making contacts, or is your agent there?
I have an agent. I've had her there for some time, and she encouraged me to come. And so I did have a couple of auditions while I was there.
Good. Yeah. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for your auditions, that they go well.
Thanks. And I lived there actually before, so I do know.
You're familiar.
Yeah. So.
That's good. That's good. Well, Mike, how about you? Now, you are now living in Hernando, Florida. No winter there at all. Very nice. So
Not by our definition, no.
Right. That's right. If it gets 65 degrees down there, people are like frozen. You know, yeah. I've seen like gloves in stores when it gets to be like 60 degrees, or they have them out in the front so that you can keep your hands warm. So it's, you know, it's very funny, very different world. So how has your business changed since moving to Hernando?
Well, I got down here the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Kathleen and I are represented by the same agent in Atlanta, and Atlanta is about a 5.5-hour drive from here. So basically the Southeast, you know, I'm part of the Miami local now, which is kind of interesting because the executive director, Herta Suarez, although I thought I had heard that she was retiring, but her voice is still on the Miami local voicemail. But Herta was the assistant executive of AFTRA, the Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton local of AFTRA, when I joined AFTRA when I was living in Cincinnati in 1985. So, I'm trying to get hold of her, but you know, talk about things coming full circle.
Yeah.
But as far as business, you know, my agent in Atlanta is happy that I'm closer. But I immediately, you know, sent out emails to casting directors, producers, directors here in the Southeast, but also in Chicago, to let them know that, you know, I'm no longer there, but I'm not leaving the business in any way, shape, or form. And I've got a lot of, you know, positive response from many of the folks. So good.
Well, that's very good. That's very good. So Have you been working on any creative projects during the pandemic, Mike? Any new things that have come up for you?
Actually, my Chicago agent has gotten me several voiceover auditions. I'm not in the best position, equipped to do voiceover. I mean, I really couldn't do a session from here, but basically I use the phone and Twisted Wave, which I believe Tim Dodabo, I was listening to the podcast that you had done. Yeah. And when he does remote, he uses Twisted Wave, if I'm remembering correctly. But so those opportunities have presented themselves. And then before I left, I was doing a lot of or quite a few Zoom readings of plays with Chicago dramatists. Mm-hmm. And there's a producer out in the San Francisco Bay Area. I met her when I did a film called Graduation out in Pittsburgh many years ago. But she's a writer, a director, a producer, a multi-hyphenate, if you will. And she has a San Francisco writing group. And Kathleen and I have both read for them. And so I actually have a gig on January 1st to do some of their play readings.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. That's one thing about, the pandemic has been a horrible thing, but it certainly introduced us to some new technologies that we can use and work with people at a distance, and that's huge. That's
absolutely
huge. Providing opportunities. I teach voice lessons and all of my students are on Zoom. I have a student in Atlanta, in some in Nashville, in Los Angeles. I would never have been able to do that before. So, we really have to take advantage of what this is offering to us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Kathleen, how about you? Any new projects? What have you been doing during this time?
Well, I'm with Perennial Theater Company and with Susie and Bob, as you know, they kind of lead it. And I've gotten involved helping with the website and some of that stuff in the beginning. But since COVID, before COVID, we had been working with the writer's block. And so they asked us to do their readings. We're doing them all on Zoom. And so that's been fun. I've had a few parts in that.
Yeah.
And, also in a web series, I'm with a group of girls. We call ourselves the Showgirls, and we've been a supportive group of each other. Whenever someone's in a show, theater, when I was with Second City in the writing program, they came to the final show there and supported it. It was really fun.
Oh, that's great.
So we were all talking on Zoom and decided maybe we should write something. So we came up with the idea of creating a character and a monologue. And so each one of us did that. And I was not able to be a writer at that time. I had some other things going. So the writers got together and then they took the monologues and created a story.
Wow.
And so we just, the third episode just aired this week. And I was able to connect with the Actors Fund as a supporter. So we say, if you like this episode and you'd like to donate, please donate to the Actors Fund.
Nice.
Central Region. And then the Actors Fund is also going to promote it. All the platforms and everything. So that's really good. So we're really excited about that.
That's great. So how can we find that? Where can we go online to see that?
It's on YouTube, and it's What Did Clyde Hide is the name of it.
What Did Clyde Hide?
Yes.
So. Yeah. Well, I will definitely check that out. That's great. That's a great project. So this is something that came about during COVID, or had you been working on it before?
No, it's completely spontaneous out of, doing Zoom with the ladies. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I've been having auditions with my, Atlanta rep, all along, and, a couple auditions here and there, and with David and so on and so forth. And then for the Hallmark Channel, which is filmed down in that area.
Atlanta? I didn't know that. I didn't know
Atlanta. I think it's maybe the Carolinas.
Wow.
It's in the Southeast for sure.
I have I'm a real devotee of the Hallmark Channel during the pandemic.
I know.
I watch it. It's so pleasant.
It is.
It's so pleasant. Rather than watching the news or, you know, all the horrible things going on, let's just, you know, sweetness and light, a little snow and Santa and love, and you can't be. Yeah, it's great.
Positive for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been involved with the Hallmark Channel now? What have you been doing?
I just had an audition. That's it. So yeah. So that was fun.
Well, sure. My fingers crossed. I'd love to see you on a Hallmark.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then we have groups where we're getting together on Zoom just to do Pilates and things like that, and just to see.
Fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
You know, as I was saying, you know, one of the real thrills for this time, during this time for me, is to anticipate being on Zoom with someone and then they pop up, you know. It sounds ridiculous, but it just fills my heart with joy, truly.
It's so good to see them. Yeah.
Yes, because, you know, we miss people so much, you know, and even though we can't have the personal interaction or touch them or whatever, still Zoom has been a wonderful thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've invested in it when I was a little company.
Wow, you did?
No, we should have.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we should have. You're right. Who knew? Yeah. So, what do you think, Kathleen, that the post-pandemic future looks like for creatives? You have several creative skill sets. How will you employ those skills going forward?
Well, I think, you know, it's important to stay connected for sure, you know, and it's been a great thing to collaborate with these different projects that we've created to work together. And I think that it's created a new media. It's not that it's new media, but it's a new platform for sure. Yeah. For theater, you've probably seen some equity stuff on here.
Yes.
You know, SAG-AFTRA stuff. It's just a whole new thing, and it's so unique. And we're also doing something with Rob Alden, I meant to mention, that has employed Zoom very nicely. And I'm involved with the artwork on that with him and collaborating, and also with Henrique. And he's fantastic.
Yes, he is.
Meet John Doe. And so that's all been filmed and it's done. It's in production now.
Fabulous.
So it's just a new way to connect. And then you have to think about also when you're speaking, who you're speaking to and where they're at. A lot of times it's windows, but if there's two windows up and right. it's a theater piece or a radio show. And Rob was fantastic at putting that all together. And I can't wait to see it because he was real thoughtful about how we should present and which ways, and I had people speaking to each other like that, and yes. I'm anxious to see it because he's a great director on that.
Yeah, it's a new area, a new science. Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, I hadn't really thought about that for theater, but it's very very interesting. You know, I did with my voice students, I did a voice recital, a virtual recital. And I had two students singing together. Wow. And so I had one facing this way and one facing that way. And, you know, it was just really interesting to kind of make it look like they are communicating with each other. So I can really relate to what you're saying. I certainly have a lot to learn about this, but I thought I'm just going to jump in and try it. Why not? You know,
I would like to see that. That sounds great.
Well, I will certainly let you see it. That sounds great. Sounds great. So, Mike, what about you? What have you, you know, how do you think things are going to move forward, and how do you plan to employ your skills? You are also a multi-skilled individual. So where do you feel that the opportunities are going to be for yourself post-pandemic?
Well, obviously, you know, self-tape and Zoom auditions are going to be here to stay. I mean, it's, you know, from what I've been hearing from casting directors, it allows them to see a lot more people. So at least, you know, I don't think the the in-person audition is ever going to be replaced, but that will be more along the lines of when they're closer to decision time. So developing all these different skills, I think it's going to lead to a lot more self-production, because we are all learning to be producers, in some sense or another. But the important thing is, to continue those relationships. Like I said, when I got down here, the first thing I needed to let people know is that, hey, I'm not in Chicago anymore. I left Chicago, but I'm not leaving the business. And so, those are things. There's a film on Netflix right now called Rust Creek, and it's like one of the top 5 films in the country right now. And one of the producers and the one who was responsible for the story was a writer director that I worked with when I was living in Cincinnati, which was over 15 years ago now. And I was a stand-in on a film he was shooting in Louisville. Wow. But we've always stayed in touch, and so I was able to jump on board to watch the film, and then they did a Q&A with the cast and the director and the producers. And so I think just maintaining those relationships, because you'll find ways to connect again.
Yeah.
I mean, I often think of the commonalities you and I have, because I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, but I lived in Cincinnati for more than 20 years. That's where my former wife was from. My kids were all born and raised there, but we lived in a neighborhood called Roselawn, which was where your high school, Woodward, right?
Yeah, that's where my high school was, and a lot of the kids that went to school with me were from Roselawn.
And then, is your degree from Western College, or is it from Miami?
My undergraduate from Western College, and it was a women's college, and it was in Oxford, Ohio. But then the college closed down and was acquired by Miami.
And my youngest, my daughter, is a Miami grad. So
and then I got my master's degree at Miami, and I am now on the alumni board of Miami University.
Wow. Well,
so I have a relationship with Miami for all of my life, and it's a wonderful school and a wonderful town, and the new president, he's not all that new anymore, but Greg Crawford is his name, and he's fantastic. So when did your daughter graduate? Is she there now, or she?
No, she graduated in 2014, and it wound up being the only school she applied to. So she really had a pretty good idea of where she wanted to go. It was funny. I did a network playwrights 10-minute play festival with Chicago dramatists, and all of the actors and directors. There were 6 plays being showcased. We were all involved in 2 of them, and the director of one of the shows I was in, she was a 2014 grad of Miami, and she and my daughter were in the same dorm freshman year, and that's how they got to know each other, and they stayed friends, throughout college and beyond. So talk about a small world.
Small world. Yeah, if you're out here long enough, you're gonna run into somebody that you know from some other kind of situation.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a question for you guys that, has been kind of an important thing for me, and I'm asking people week after week. How have you sustained yourself emotionally? Let's hear from Mike first. Emotionally, to keep your spirits up and to, to keep moving forward and not get discouraged or feel sad.
Yeah, I do a lot of reading, and one of the books that I've read several times now is by Dr. John C. Maxwell, called Failing Forward. And he talks about Dr. Carl Menninger. He tells a story about Dr. Carl Menninger, who was a psychiatrist. And Dr. Menninger was asked one time, what would you advise somebody who feels like they're on the verge of a nervous breakdown? And many people thought he was going to say, consult a psychiatrist, because that was his profession. But his answer was, lock up your house, cross the railway tracks, and find someone in need and do something to help that person. So, so when you're feeling that way, just take the focus off yourself and find somebody else to help or to serve.
Great advice. That's great advice. You know, I have a lot of friends that are doing, you know, the food depository and all of these kinds of things to do just that, you know, to take the off of themselves. That's a great suggestion. Yeah. Kathleen, how about you? What have you been doing to keep yourself perked up?
So one of the things I've done is really hone in on my meditation. I do twice a day. It's a transcendental meditation. And they've had a few women's on Zoom retreats, which is like a day retreat. Nice. Where you tune in, and then we do asanas, breathing exercises, and light yoga and meditation. And then we have a speaker, and these women are so enlightened. It's just so inspiring. And they talk about women, how important it is for women, because we're the caregivers, to take care of ourselves so that we can be more feminine and do what our role is in life, you know.
Right.
So especially with children, and, you know, we both have children. And so that's been wonderful. And I've also, so I live in this great community, and this woman in our several buildings that are connected here on the lake. Some of them face east, directly at the lake, and mine faces right at the beach.
Nice.
I've got 2 wide windows, you know, and it's
nice.
great. Everyone's so busy getting to the train, getting in their car, going to work every day. And never really met anybody here other than Mark across the hall, you know. Yeah. And so this woman put this sign up in everybody's doorway and said, let's meet at the seawall, bring something to eat or drink, and we'll just, you know, socially distance.
Nice.
And she did that. And since then, we are all friends. We have bonfires out during the summer, we were getting together for dinners once a week. Everybody brings something. We'd bring our little stand-up grill that sits on a table. Somebody'd bring a big egg grill, and we'd socially distance. And that was just such a gift, I tell you what.
Yeah, because people have time to, you know, to reach out to each other, and people are lonely. You know, people are looking for companionship. That's wonderful. So that's it.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
So the funny thing was, now we run into each other, like all the time on the street or whatever, doing whatever we're doing. And, you know, we were just doing our thing before. So that's been a real gift. And the other thing, I have this book I got, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, and it was like a small bookstore was sitting on the table on sale. And the name of it is Anatomy of Spirit. It's by Caroline Miss, M-I-S-S. And she talks about the 7 stages of power and healing. But what I would do before sleep, because I was having trouble sleeping, I would open the book to a page and just, you know, ask, you know, for something that I need to read that day. And I have hung on to this book. It's been such a great thing. And she talks about the chakras and all this other stuff, but also recently the TM did a national Meditate America, and they had Sting. They had all of these famous singers on that, and then a lot of the people talked about their experience with TM, how it's helped them, and how it's helping during the pandemic. Great. And that was just such a neat thing. You can see it on YouTube. It was just fabulous, all the different speakers and you know, famous people that are, you know, actors, performers that really use this, you know, meditation or some form of meditation really to enhance your creativity. And there was one thing that I really took away from one of the speakers, and these are brilliant people. they've been meditating since forever. So they're very enlightened. But he said, a student, they were interviewing students, and they were speaking to students, had asked, how do you know when your idea is a good idea? And he said, so when an idea comes to your, let's say you're trying to write a script or a song, for instance, when an idea comes, you think about it and maybe it goes away and maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't. But when an idea comes to you and it makes you feel happy and excited, that's the good idea, right? Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. So I think that's so true. Anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think with regard to anything, if something gives you joy and makes you happy, makes you smile, it's the right thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's divine. You know what I mean? It's, yeah, something you should do. So
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that this has given us an opportunity to come to these kinds of conclusions. You know, this pandemic, to chance to think, to stop, and just, you know, really experience life in a different way, and realize that, you know, we should be seeking the things that make us smile. Like you were talking about your neighbors, you know, you guys were just passing each other on the street and you know, didn't even recognize each other. You didn't know each other. So of course you know, didn't see each other. So, you know, it's that certainly is a silver lining.
Exactly.
Pandemic. And there are lots of them. And I think if we can kind of just be grateful for the things that we have and the things that we can learn and, you know, experience through this time, I think that will help tremendously. And hopefully, you know, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and, you know, we can make it through these next few months and then be looking at this pandemic in the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready for that.
Early on, you know, when things first started locking down and people were talking about getting back to normal, I heard a woman who said, if we go back to normal, we've missed the lesson in all of this. And I think that's really, really true. I think there's going to be a lot of good, or already has been a lot of good, of course, a lot of bad as well, but a lot of good that'll come out of it.
I think so too. And I think that's a brilliant idea, that we will have missed the lesson. I think that is, wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah, yeah. So what would you guys say to young performers coming along? What, you know, what things would you tell them to watch out for, or to do or not do, or whatever? Mike, why don't you go first?
I would tell them that it's show business, and that the business part of it is every bit as, if not more important than the show part. You know, the show part is kind of the icing on the cake. You know, our real job is to audition. When we book the role, you know, that's what we love to do. But yeah, I would really tell them to focus on the business side of it, because if this is what you want to do, you know, for your career, you got to take care of that so that you can have a long-lasting, sustainable career.
Yes, yes, great. Kathleen, how about you? What would you tell young people coming along?
I think it's important to have a good support system with, you know, your fellow actors, singers, whatever it is you're doing, and create your own work, so that you're working all the time. And we've been so lucky to be with the singers, with you, Greta, as our leader, our fearless leader, and Joe, to be able to do things like that. And yeah, you know, just constantly be honing your craft and doing what you love. And in doing that, you know, we all have times when we're like self-doubt, like this is hard. Oh, I haven't had an audition in a while. But as long as you keep being creative, seeking out work with your friends, come up with some skits. You know, it's so important, I think, to stay working and exercising, you know, gifts. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. You know, to be, you know, constantly creating something for yourself, and then maybe you can employ your friends, help your friends, and they can help you. And then you build a sustainable career that way. So that's great. That's great. Well, I'm going to call Jess back and see if she has any questions. I did see one question pop up. I don't know
yes.
what that was. I'm just going to peek at it. Jess, can you come back and join us?
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. You have any questions or
comments
or anything?
So Barbara is asking a question to you about your performance with your students. She's asking if the duet with the students was live or engineered to look and sound that way through layering, because the latency issues on Zoom haven't been resolved yet. So did you use Source Connect, and was it more effective? So how did you manage to create that?
What I did was have each student video themselves in their home, in their own private situation, and email them all to me. Now, the duet was very difficult, and I ended up with an audio engineer because the volumes were different. That just a lot of things were different. So I contacted an audio engineer that I know and had him sync them up, and it looks great. It looks great, but it was recorded ahead of time. All of the things on the recital were pre-recorded. I was just afraid to try to do it live because it's, people are watching and it could go horribly wrong. And the students were very uncomfortable with that concept as well, with doing it live. So Barbara, we pre-recorded and then I engineered it to work.
It's funny too, because we are going to be having a holiday party here with the Coffer Center on Zoom, and plot spoiler, I was thinking of putting up some karaoke style Christmas carols with the full expectation of it sounding atrocious, because everyone's going to be singing at a different rate. I'm like, this live is, as long as everyone signs up for the fact that it will not, the latency is going to be, the goal is not to sing well when you're singing karaoke. So at least in that setting, we can do it live. But for your point, you kind of are benefiting from a pre-record there to layer that correctly.
Yeah, that was the only way that I could figure to do it. So it worked well. But I have to tell you, I did do something that was very interesting last week, and it was not anything having to do with performing, but I'm a member of an organization, and I happen to be the social committee chair. And they wanted to have a holiday event. So I thought, okay, we're going to have this holiday event. So I sent an invitation to everyone. Everyone joined. I showed a video during the thing. We had a trivia game that we did via the poll on Zoom, which was very cool. And so I had these questions, and then people had to guess. And the person that won then got a $5 Starbucks gift certificate. So it was all, very distanced. So it worked out very, very well. And then after the event, or at the end of the event, we broke into the breakout rooms. And so that was really it. I just wanted to try it and just become more familiar with Zoom and all of the features and how to work them. So that might be something you could think about, Jess, use some of those things.
Yeah, I had just attended a storytelling night with Second Story about a week ago, and they had done a similar thing, where all the storytellers did their stories, and between the stories they cut to the performers that were doing the music, just like they would at their live events. And then when it was all over, you could chat the host, who had named herself Breakout Rooms, like in her handle, and tell her who you wanted to go to a breakout room with from the guest list, like just like you'd see your friend and you talk to them after a show. So you were basically saying, hey, put me in a room with these people so that we can like connect, which I'm like, it's so interesting when you think of all of the ways that you want to try and emulate like the live experience of being together. Because I was thinking exactly that. Like when you go to a show, when you go to an event, you also look in the house, you're like, oh, I see so-and-so and so-and-so, and I'll be sure to say hi to them after the show. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. The only thing is just making all these things work. That's the challenge. Yeah, making them work. But, I remember way back in March when we first went on lockdown, and I did like 3 something or another's with the Coffer Center. Do you recall those?
Yeah.
And I was very reluctant and very nervous and stressed out about doing it. And you said something to me that I thought was so important, and I've repeated it to so many people. No one knows what they are doing now. So jump in with both feet and learn. And it's so true. It's so true.
I think that's totally, it's still, I mean, I think that's, I mean, even before this pandemic though, there's been a lot of, that's kind of like the drum that I beat right there, is like learning by doing. And like, yeah, Mike, like to your book title, Failing Forward, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And when we do our studio jams at the Coffer Center, one of the things that I continue to repeat is like, there are no dumb questions. There's only preventable mistakes. Like if you put yourself out there, and I always encourage people, like, run the risk of looking foolish, because, and it's exactly what you guys are talking about too, somebody else is going to be able to tap into their excellence and be able to give that to you, which is going to actually help them, because they're going to be the authority in something that's going to gift you, and you're going to grow in your authority, and no one's going to think any less of you by looking foolish, because, you know, I mean, we are the center of our own journey, just like everyone else, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are the most important person in the room to yourself, just like everyone else, right? Like, nobody's paying as much attention to you, but you.
Yeah.
So if we can all just put ourselves out there, then we're going to run the risk of just getting better, you know?
You're right.
So, and learning by doing. I mean, this Zoom thing, I feel like if college students now could do internships for like stage manage engineering Zoom events, like if they can, I mean, that's like, because I think that, you know, to Mike's point too, like when we get back together, this isn't going away. It's just going to adapt to the new setup of like both in-person and virtual. So if we can assume that this is now going to be a viable space for connecting, like even the Coffer Center, we have new Coffer community members that exist in Atlanta, in Los Angeles, all through this pandemic. Like I got an email from one of them this week that's like, you guys feel like family now, you know, and I've never met her in person, but it's just because she's been coming to, you know, our virtual events. We have them coming to Wake Up Wednesday. So I have people joining us for coffee, but they're in different time zones. Like, you know what I mean? So that would have never happened had it not been for the pandemic, you know?
You're right. It's absolutely wonderful. And I really do think that universities are going to have courses on this. I mean, clearly, this is a thing now. You know, people need to know how to do this and do it well.
Jim Schinkel is asking, he says, I like the idea of live music thing, but would we all need ISDN and headphones? I'll play Frosty the Snowman on mandolin if anyone wants to sing.
You know, I think that there are, at least what I've heard, is that there are software programs that can allow you to do something that's, you know, kind of syncs together. So that might be something, Jim, for you to take a look at, you know, just Google it and see. I really do. I think that there's something, you know, I don't, you know, I have not availed myself of it, but there are software programs.
One of my favorite performances that I've seen lately from one of the late shows was Alanis Morissette's performance that she had done for, I think it was either Jimmy, I think it might've been Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel. But they kept like cutting to all the musicians. And I think it probably was pre-recorded where people were like from their location layering in, but that was one of the reason I remember it is it was basically a different version of my intro of your webinar last week, which was like Alanis and her daughter who kept taking off her headphones, and like Alanis is singing and her daughter is like upstaging the whole performance. And I was like, that's so perfect, because I feel like, again, I think that archivists have their work cut out for them trying to figure out how you catalog all of the content of this moment in time, you know? Right. And so I looked at that, I was like, this is it's representative of not just the technology, but like the way work looks right now too.
That's absolutely right. Just the way our lives look, you know, wow, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm laughing too, because I'm like, Alanis Morissette's daughter isn't like, oh my gosh, I am upstaging Alanis Morissette. It's like, no, my mom is like being too loud right now. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just, yeah, when you're working from home, you're not Alanis Morissette anymore. You're just mom. That's
right.
You know?
That is so funny. So funny.
Over on Facebook, I do want to chime in though, back to the giving of yourself element. F. David Roth pointed out that he has been working on his own project, Laptops to Students for Remote Learning. So he takes old discarded laptops, he refurbishes them, and he gives them to underserved students in the community. So if and I'm shouting this out because this is something he's been able to do from his own workspace, and through, I will add to his note a little bit to say, even through some of our neighborhood groups that do free cycling, he's been able to procure goods and things that help him flesh out a whole system that he could donate. So I think this is great. His Facebook page is facebook.com/groups/free laptops. Also, if you're a Coffer community member and you have technology that you want to get in his hands, you could also get a hold of me, and I'll make sure he gets your information as well as whatever it is that you're trying to offload and donate. So just get a hold of the Coffer Center if you can't find this page, and I will get you in touch. But that's a great project, and obviously the need is great right now because there's such a wide girth of students trying to access classrooms right now from home. A lot of them that didn't start this pandemic with the technology to do so. So
that's right. That's it. That's a great cause. That's great. Thank you. Mike, did you have something that you wanted to share?
Oh, well, just what you were talking about earlier. My granddaughter, she's 7 months old. I've never met her in person because they're out in the Bay Area. And so thank God for FaceTime. But her other grandparents are in Connecticut and her grandmother is in Cincinnati. And my son was saying that, you know, all she knows people is in these little boxes. You know?
It's hilarious. Yeah, very true. It'll be interesting to see how young children are being impacted by this once it's over. You know, that they've only maybe ever seen their grandparents or their teacher on.
It's already so funny because I'll be sitting here doing things like this, and then I'll, you know, finish a call or whatever and walk into like the kitchen area, and my 3-year-old comes up, she goes, "Mommy, are you done with your friends?" Like that's like, so she like sees this as, you know what I mean, like a social event now, which your point is absolutely right. Like, how does this change the way that they see, you know, like my daughter will come to calls and look in the room and see if there are faces that she knows, right? You know, so
it's so cute.
A strange new normal, that's for sure.
A strange new normal, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, so does anyone else have any other comments that they'd like to make or any other things they'd like to share?
If anybody has any other questions or comments, feel free. I'll also say that Michael Edgar Myers is over on Facebook quoting our talk today, saying that he's pulling our pull quotes. So I think that we've given plenty of sound bites if anybody wants to go back and watch the replay of this, which I'll also say, if you do want to go back to watch the replay of this talk or any of the other talks that Greta's done so far, they are hosted also on our YouTube, which you could look on YouTube, search Coffer Center. So you could stream this conversation or any others that you missed and see if there are any other quotable moments. But Mike Myers is over there saying our quotes, "If we go back to normal, we'll have missed the lesson." I think that is a good pull quote. I think that is a good
quote
point.
Of the day. No
That's the quote of the year, I think.
Okay.
Right?
I wish I could credit the woman who said it. I can't remember her name.
She impacted your way of thinking about this.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, she's a singer-songwriter. So
wow.
I'll try and track that down and.
I will ask a question in that vein, though. If everyone in this group can do so, I'd love to ask, in the spirit of, if you go back to normal, you'll have missed the lesson. What is one new practice, not one that you've incorporated more firmly, but one that you've acquired during this time, that you think you will be able to carry into like post-pandemic as an era? Like, how are you journeying forward with a new tool, practice, resource, moving out of this? And how do you see that changing the way that you live when we go out of the virtual and into the actual?
Kathleen, would you like to go?
I think gratitude is a big one. And it, I mean, gratitude even for your gifts. And I have become more, do my meditation, my vocal warm up, my yoga, and it's, it's so hard to keep that when you're running and running and running, but it's so important. And, how it changes your voice, how it changes your outlook, and such gratitude about, my own life's purpose. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Mike?
I'm concentrating on being, more present in the moment, and the way I, kind of continually remind myself is the words of, get ready, Michael. Is it Michael Myers who's pulling the quotes from Lao Tzu, where he says, "If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you're living in the future. If you're at peace, you're living in the present."
Wow. Yeah. Mike, you got all the great stuff today.
Just have to.
I feel like we're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to watch our own replay and get zen about everything that happened. I'm gonna use this talk to center me moving ahead. And this might even be the kind of talk I go to bed to. I'll just put on YouTube, put an earbud in, because just conversation is so calming, you know. And I think this connection is good. Being intentional about connection, which I'll just take up the torch here and say to mine then, is being intentional about connection, because prior to this, I think I've always felt busy, and I've always thought of connecting as a thing on the to-do list, but now connection is a desire, you know, and how that actually fills your cup, and it actually restores you and makes you feel more equipped to do the things that are your actual to-do list, because you've done something edifying for your person. Also, I will say that I am really trying to take up the torch of my own health. I think that this pandemic's made me conscious of how many areas in which I could be on the risk list, just because of what I believe my family's pre-existing conditions to be. And it makes you conscious of what can you do? What can you do to take care of yourself? What can you do? No, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, but what can we do today to improve our outcomes? You know what I mean? So you can't live in fear. You could just live with as much, you know what I mean? Yeah. As much power as you can, and then just let life do what it's going to do. So
right, that's great.
Well, what about you, Greta?
Could I just jump in real quick?
Sure. Yes, Mike, absolutely.
Like Kathleen, I do transcendental meditation, and I'm grateful to her because she's the one who introduced me to it. So so that's been a really big help. Yeah. So now to you, Greta.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I've been doing that I have found to be so gratifying and so wonderful, I have a podcast that I have just started. I think we started in September or October. And the premise of the podcast is to bring singers together and to celebrate their career, their journey. It's called the Business Savvy Singer Podcast. And I have met some of the most wonderful people and had an opportunity to chat with them, and people recommend other people. I'll do an episode with one person and then they recommend somebody else and somebody else. Last week, I did a wonderful interview with a guy in Zagreb, Croatia. He's an American guy, but he's living there. And he's lived in Paris. He's traveled all over the world. He's done such interesting things. And we had such a nice rapport, and we're friends now, so that's been something that's been important for me, because so often singers are overlooked. They're not sure how to market their businesses, how to get out there, how to get the work. And I thought, I just want to build a community for singers, because I think that it's important. So this is turning into that, it's actually fulfilling my wish for the project. So I'm very excited, and that's something that has given me a lot of solace, made me feel good. I feel like I'm helping others, who might be struggling or might not know, which way to turn, because none of us are working, so at least if we can talk about that and how we're dealing with it, and kind of celebrate the things in our past and all of those things. So that's what I've been doing.
Well, and you connected with someone in Croatia, Yes. I had dropped into one of the Steppenwolf preseason, conversations that Anna was having, and she was talking about how many students were having access to things and how many countries, you know what I mean? And it's a very there's a pause there. You're you know what I mean? The accessibility
it's huge.
shift that happens, now. and hoping that that journey's ahead in a significant and impactful way. And I mean, of course, as a mom, I think about this a lot, just the access to the arts. You know, I'm looking in my email right now and I see that there's a hip hop Christmas carol that I could get $20 tickets for. And I'm like, wow, I was like, I can make an event with my kids right now, you know, where I can put the art in our living room, you know, and that's a game changer. So it's really amazing what creative people have done through creative means during this time. So
yeah, and that's one great thing about who we are as creative people. You know, we're accustomed to pivoting and figuring out how to make it work. It's like, oh, that didn't work, let's try this. So we really, I think have had great opportunities, and I think we have seized those opportunities to do some interesting and wonderful things. So I am proud of everyone. I think we're all moving ahead, and it's a great thing.
Well, I appreciate you all for making and taking the opportunity to have this conversation today. Kathleen and Mike, it's good to see both of your faces. And now I'm going to be thinking of warm locales that I can visit you in when the world opens up and I want to get on an airplane again. So I hope you're getting the guest bedroom ready, because I want to, after this is all done, I think I want to see greener locations that aren't the brick wall outside of my dining room. So
in the windy
You're always welcome, Jess. You're always welcome.
Well,
bring the family. Bring the family.
Kathleen and Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a real pleasure. I wish you guys much continued success going forward. I'm jealous that you're in the warm climate. I'm on my way down here.
Well, I look forward to seeing you when you get down here.
Absolutely. We will have to get together. Post-pandemic, of course.
Yeah, but thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jess, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Greta, thank you as always for these. We have another conversation coming next week before the holidays, and that'll be our last one before everyone enjoys their, what are people calling it? Pandemicmas or whatever? I don't know. So something, there's some catchphrase now for how you celebrate a holiday.
Yeah. Well, next week we have Charles Gardner and Troy Pryor talking.
All right.
I'm very excited about that. So I hope you'll all and your friends.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're watching and you plan on joining us, feel free to submit any questions that you have to them in advance. We'll be sure to bring those into the conversation. And if you haven't RSVP'd to join us for our holiday party, you can do that on our Eventbrite page. It's coffercenter.eventbrite.com. So if you want to join us and see how poorly we all sing some holiday karaoke, feel free to register, because I'm sure all of our singing will sound nothing like Greta's recital. So if that's your brand of singing, like it is mine, join us. That'll be a week from next Thursday evening. And to Mike, Kathleen, Greta, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Stay well, stay safe, stay healthy and sane. And to everyone watching as well, it is a pleasure to be here with you. Let us know if we can be a resource to you remotely in the meantime. And until we see you again, we wish you safe, healthy, sane times and days ahead.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Weekend. Bye-bye.
Take care.